I feel like love is the best thing you can give your child, not like abandonment, because I have abandonment issues because of all of this. I also have a lot of trust issues and issues with relationships and just life in general. I also think if you are somebody who went through a program and you're watching this, don't be scared to put your story out there, because it does feel good after you put it out there. I know it's hard reliving all the trauma all over again and knowing that it's out there, but that means this won't happen to anybody else. And that you're not alone, that you, like, we know how you feel. Like, I know how you feel, and I know it's hard.
Welcome to one more episode of Pinky J Podcast. Today, I have a guest who's fairly close to my heart. Her name is Nancy. I've been doing Nancy since she was a baby, since she was born. She's a very close family friend of ours. But this story that we're going to share today is a first time that she's talking publicly about it. And if you guys have not seen the documentary on Netflix called The Program, I would highly suggest you guys to watch it. She was part of this cult, unfortunately, and I did not know until recently, so it broke my heart when I found out she was part of it. Hi, Nancy. Welcome.
Hi.
How are you today?
Nervous.
Don't be nervous. You'll be fine. I know you for many years. You've been through a lot in life. You know, you had a traumatic childhood, and unfortunately, it's not your fault.
I was just a kid.
You were a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when you're a kid and you're a teenager, you could be troubled. There's so many troubled teenagers out there. Tell me more about this cult you were put into.
Well, it's like 250 facilities, but there's one organization that controls it all. So it's called Worldwide Association of Specialty Programs in Schools, WASPS facilities. And they were founded by Robert Lichfield, who is Narvin Lichfield's brother. And then they have 3 other siblings. They have a lot of siblings, but there's 3 others that I know of. Growing up, they were really poor, so Robert was basically the one that brought the family up. So he created this, and then Narv basically helped him with it. But Narvin's facility was already shut down, like the entire... So it's like 500 acres of land, and his house, one of his houses are on there, so he'll like stay on the property, but it was already shut down by the police. So when I had come to stay, I was living in the house with Narvin. I lived with the creator of like all these facilities. So there was like 2 different experiences. There's like the experience from the documentary, and then there's like the experience of living with the man who created this.
And in the documentary, they did talk about Narvin's house.
They showed Narvin's house, but they didn't speak about how he's opened them illegally, basically, after they're being shut down.
Okay, and when you were put in, was it open illegally?
It was open, it was open illegally. So the facilities that you see in the show, where they have all the students, those were on the property, but when we would go there, it's like basically turned upside down, like as if it was raided by the police. So it was like cobwebs everywhere. Those weren't being used. So we were living in the house with Narvin and his ex-wife, Lori.
So let's go back a little bit about your first experience. I know in the documentary they come into the person's house and just take them away. You're in the middle of sleeping at night and like you get startled. How old are you? 13 years old? It's insane how they do that. Was that your experience the first time?
The first time, no. The first time my dad had flown me out to Louisiana, and then it was in Lecomte, Louisiana. I had went to that facility. My dad, I didn't really want to go, but my dad, I didn't really have much of a choice. He went with me to Louisiana. I didn't really exactly know that I was staying at a place that was like locked down. I didn't know what it was. They made it sound better than what it really was, of course. Like they show that there's these brochures and you could do this and that, but that's not really the case. When I had arrived, my dad and I saw Robert Lichfield at the entrance, and that's really rare because you don't really get to meet Robert Lichfield. He's like somebody who gets all the money from this, but he doesn't usually visit facilities, and if he does, it's like here and there because he doesn't really do much of the work. He just gains the money because he's the founder. My dad told me that he had a conversation with him, and then when I went inside, I just remember going into a room and then having like 10 minutes with my dad. Like I had a Hope Buddy for 3 days, which is basically some somebody who, they have 3 days to tell you all the rules, how things work, and then you're on your own. She brought me in. They were like, you can't see your dad anymore. And then that's like the last time I saw my dad for like 6 months. I was supposed to be there for 12 months. I have my contract with me. I kind of like started sending my parents letters. I did send them a suicide letter once when I was there because I was like, I can't do this anymore. And after that letter, I think like a month later, they pulled me out of the program. But it was like one day to another. So I knew the day that I was leaving. They don't tell you how long your contract is or how long you're supposed to be there. They don't tell you any of that.
And how old were you?
I was 13.
You were a kid.
Yeah, I was in 8th grade. I saw my parents fill out the form. I have the form, so I know the reason that they sent me there was because Nancy needs to learn to value her life more and to obey rules.
Value life more. What does that even mean to you?
I was already having so many problems at home, so I think at that age, I did get hospitalized once. I didn't want to die or anything, but I was having problems like mentally, and I was self-harming myself, and I felt like nobody really saw me in my household. And like, I love my parents. I never blame them for anything, but there was like a couple things growing up that weren't okay. And I've spoken to them about it, but it's like, it affected me. And I don't blame anybody because I'm an adult now and I get life gets in the way and stuff. So I understand things better now, but at that age I didn't. Personally though, all these years I felt like they just like sent me away because they couldn't handle it themselves. But I personally would never do that to my child. I would never just hand them to somebody. Obviously, now the world knows that brochures could obviously be fake. Everything could be fake. You can't just trust even somebody who facilitates something. They made billions off of this. And like it, just because like it looks like it's real, it's not real. You know?
Right.
It's not gonna actually help you.
Right. It actually made you worse.
Yeah, I had like a lot of diagnoses after, and I had to take a lot of medications after. And I ended up locking myself in a basement for 3 months. I was scared of the world after both facilities. I was just having so many issues.
So you're already troubled, right? Quote unquote, before going to the program or the school. And now coming out of it, you became worse, which is so sad. Because to get out of that, it's not easy. In this first program, I know on Netflix they said you guys couldn't write like exactly what you guys were going through, but in your case you were able to write that to your parents.
Yeah, there was one email that I sent to them, so they always check your emails and your letters, so most of them were good. There was one that I sent through email that wasn't so good, but I believe they let me like send it because they wanted to just like show my parents, oh, she's definitely not ready to leave type of thing, because like she's depressed and she's not learning anything. But I think my parents took it as like they're scared now. They went to a seminar. Like I feel they could see that something's not right here. And my brother also, from what I heard my parents say, he went to a program when he was younger too, and it was in Utah, but I don't know much about it because I don't ask him about that because I know what I went through, so I don't really want to like talk about it with my brother. When I did end up telling him everything I went through, he did say he's sorry. Like he's probably the first person to say he was sorry, and it took years for them to believe me because Narvin and Flory are really good manipulators.
They know how to like play the game with the parents. So what was your experience like in the first time around?
It was very strict. You had to pivot everywhere that you were walking. Every corner had to be pivoted. Your head had to be down. There was the boys' side and the girls' side, and then the cafeteria. So there's a hallway that connects all three. So when you're going into the hallway, you have to put your head down or else you get punished because you can't look at a boy. And if there was boys ever passing by, they'd be like, boys coming, you have to put your head down. When I first got there, I cut myself. I panicked. I was like, I don't want to be here. I got my first period ever when I was there. So like I was like, I want my mom, and I couldn't have her. Nobody was helping me with anything. Nobody told me what I was going through as a woman. So when I had hurt myself, I think it was the second night I was there, they put me in intervention for 2 weeks. So it's like a white room with just brick walls and a chair, and you just sit in there for 2 weeks. They'll give you like a really thin mattress, like the ones they have in prison, like just a pad to sleep in the room at nighttime. No blanket or anything, no pillow, because you're in intervention. During the day, you have to sit in the chair. You just have to look at the wall like all day, and you have to write an essay about what you did wrong. So basically, my first 2 sentences is like, I'm sorry, I cut myself. I shouldn't have done that. I have to write about, I think it was 17,000 words, and I have to count them. So that was my punishment. In order to like get all those words down, I just took their pack of rules, and I just kept like writing them over and over and over again for 2 weeks. Even though there's rules and like you can go up in the system, it's so traumatizing advertising that like there's no way you're gonna level up. So I knew all the rules, but it's like it was stupid rules. Like you can't smile, you can't talk, you can't laugh, the most idiotic things. And to shave, I know at Ivy Ridge you couldn't shave at all, but they had this thing where if you were at level 3, you could use an electric razor. You would just have to be in the hallway and everyone would do it at the same time. We had showers and we all had to shower in the same thing, like walls between us, but we had our own thing, but like you had to be able to see the person. My punishments, I'd always level down, but I was in intervention a lot of times. But when I was in there, like I couldn't have like ketchup or anything, like no sugar or anything. Like I would just have the basic food. Our eggs were like in these bags that they would just like heat up in boiling water. Like everything was really fake. The food was disgusting. We would sometimes like have activities, but if you were in punishment or a certain level, you couldn't join people. And one time when I was in intervention, I was just complaining and I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. And I was just crying and like, I'm pretty sure I was like yelling at because they're at a desk like supervising you and like they can see you in the room. I was just looking and I was like basically yelling like I don't want to be here. And the lady, I think her name was Mary, I really did not like her. She came up to me and I was crisscross applesauce and she like stood on my hands for like 5 minutes and she was like, you can't move, da da da. So then I was still rebelling though, because I was like, I don't want to be here. Like maybe I thought like maybe if I was so bad they'll send me home. So
well, that's a good way to put it, Nancy.
Like maybe I could just stress them out. And then they like restrained me to the floor. So like my like chin was on the floor and I was like laying there. I wasn't even doing anything that bad. Like if anything, it was vocal. So I wasn't like touching anybody. They didn't really have the right to touch me back. I was just like in shock because I was like, I don't know where I am. I don't know when I'm going home. I don't know if I can talk to my parents. Like, I don't even know if I can see my parents. When I did see my brother, I started crying when they came to the seminar. I was wearing the uniform. I actually have the picture. I looked crazy. It was, like, really sad. I couldn't even tell them that I wanted to leave or that the place was bad because, like, you can't – there's no place for you to tell them stuff like that. There's no privacy.
Oh, no. You know, these people don't want you to tell them.
Yeah.
That's really sad. Doing this to teenagers.
And kids. There was kids there.
So it was not even teenagers. Kids.
Yeah. So the program had like 12-year-olds, but then like the youngest. But then when I was with Narvin, there was like an 8-year-old there. So there's like children.
To treat kids like that, like you just went through hell. Like you didn't see sunlight, I'm pretty sure.
No, so we would, to go see sunlight, there would be like gym for like an hour, so you would be outside, but like it's like so, when I had left that place, I saw trees and I was in shock. I was like, wow, that's a tree. Like I still don't remember, I remember like the feeling of looking at trees and I was like, it feels like a euphoric, like wow, I'm looking at trees. Like it's a crazy feeling, like when you leave and see the world, it feels unreal and you don't know how to live in it anymore. But like during gym, like so the fences are white, but they're really tall, so you can't see anything. And you're in the middle of like nowhere. You're in Louisiana, it's dry. Like there's nothing anywhere near us. They did tell us the story of a girl who ran away. She like climbed the fence or dug a hole under it or something. And they said that like she was never heard of again. Like I think they were trying to scare us, but I don't know, like, you know.
Right.
But that's why we didn't really try, because like there's really nothing like miles away from us. We're like in the middle of nowhere.
Right. So much trauma you put through. And then once you left this program, how long was it till you went to the next program?
It was only like 6 months.
Only 6 months?
Mm-hmm.
So what happened? Like your parents like said, fuck it, I'm done, and then you need to go away again?
No, so that's when I started high school. I came back and I started high school.
Okay, so
yeah,
a little backstory. So I went to the same high school that Nancy went to. I went through a lot. I got bullied a lot in that school. I hated that school. So when I came to find out she was going, I begged her parents not to put her there. Like I said, she cannot go to that school. But unfortunately, she went to that school. So, and then you were put into another program because of that school.
Yeah, because of that. So I went to that school and it was It was not good. Like, basically, I got hospitalized, like, maybe 3 weeks after I started freshman year because I couldn't live in this world. I was like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to socialize with people. And I was doing great, but then it was like my mind kind of crashed when I was there. And then I came back 2 weeks later after the hospital. Remember when I cut all my hair off?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I went through like this phase where I didn't know. Like, I think I was completely lost at that point. I went back to school and everybody bullied me completely. And it was horrible. Like, I didn't really have any good friends. Like, the friends I had kind of like just completely like went behind my back on a lot of things. And then there was like one pushing point where like I told my parents I don't want to go back to school, and things at home weren't even good. So it was just everything was like clashing. And then there was one day that I snuck out my house, and this is why I got sent away. So I stuck out my house, and my parents think it's one thing, but it's another. So, and I told my mom about this, but I came back home, and my mom saw that I was bleeding. So I had lost my virginity that night. I think I was like 14. It happens, but it didn't happen in the way my mom thought. So, like, my mom thinks I lost my virginity, but I had actually gotten it taken away from me that night. So it was a very traumatic night for me. And I told her this after I left the program the second time. So I actually told her, like, maybe, like, 3-4 years ago. And this happened, like, about 10-11 years ago. So they thought that I went out. Yeah, I went out, okay. Yeah, I went out, and I came back at 1 a.m. I left a note in the kitchen. But I came home, and my mom, like, thought it looked like, yeah, she lost her virginity, but, like, I wasn't going to tell my mom right there and then 3 days later, Narvin is at my house. I didn't know how to, like, tell them. And then the first person I did tell was Flory, because I told her, I was like, that shouldn't be a reason I got sent away, because that's not really what happened. And then I actually told her what happened, and then I ended up telling my parents what happened.
Wow.
Well, my mom. I haven't told my dad, because my dad and I, like, we don't get along in that type of talking about stuff like that just doesn't work between us.
You know, everyone has their own relationship with their parents, so.
Yeah.
This time around, they came to your house and took you away.
Yeah.
And how was that?
I was eating a popsicle. I was watching TV eating a
Sorry.
popsicle. No, it's okay.
It's insane.
No, it's what I remember.
Yeah.
So I was eating in my living room, watching a show. I don't know what it was, but it was interesting. And I think it was Disney Channel, actually. And I was having a great time. And then my mom's like, oh, there's somebody here to see you. And I was, like, panicking. I was like, oh, my God. Like, I don't know what this is, but, like, they've been talking about sending me away. I was like, are they actually doing it this time? Like, again? So they were in the kitchen, Narvin and Flory, but then the kids were in the car. There's, like, a van outside. And then Flory and Narvin were in the kitchen, and they were talking to me. And, like, the way they talked to me, because I was already so depressed, and, like, that time I, like, was trying to kill myself. They made it seem like, oh, we're going to help you, you know. It's not, like, so strict, like the facility, because Narvin knew I was at Robert Lichfield's facility. So he was like, it's not like a lockdown facility. You can actually, like, go places with us. We can go to Costa Rica. We can go do this. And so he made it seem like fun. And then he was like, we have a therapist. We're going to help you. And we believe in God. But they didn't tell me they were Mormon. Which I ended up becoming Mormon. I'm not Mormon anymore. And then Flory was being super nice. And my mom really got, like, attached to them. And so did my dad. So then I went into the car. And then they took us to Utah because they were on a trip to Utah. We went to Utah to the Mormon General Conference. It's this thing they do twice a year. And it's where everyone in the world who is Mormon flies to Utah. And they just get together and talk about Mormon stuff. It's not that fun. It's a 2-hour meeting but then I did meet his family too when I was there.
So you're going through all this. They come pick you up and take you to a Mormon conference.
Yeah, they do this trip where they go to general conference, like, at least once a year. If not, we're watching it at the church all together, at the church in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. This is where Carolina Springs Academy was, but Carolina Springs Academy shut down, and then they changed it to Seneca Ranch, but it's really not even an academy anymore. It's just their house.
How did your parents find them? Google?
So my brother is the one who found both schools.
Okay.
So my brother and his ex-girlfriend at the time found the first school. She's mainly the one that found it through Google search. And then they found the next one. My brother found the next one. But the thing is, with these schools, is Narvin found a way to, like, if you just look up troubled teen boarding school, like, it goes straight to Lichfield, like, businesses.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So they took you away, and then tell me about your experience with them. We're going to deep dive into this conversation.
So I lived in South Carolina and I lived in Costa Rica. So they had 2 boarding schools. One that was shut, Carolina Springs was shut down, and Dundee Ranch in Costa Rica was shut down by the police in Costa Rica. And then the houses, like the main buildings, is their houses. We lived in it with them. I'm going to start with Narvin because Flory is a lot. And Flory, honestly, I think she's like worse than Narvin. I'm just going to be honest. I think she's worse than Narvin. Yeah. My parents glorify her still, but that's because there's no show on her to like show that she, like, they want proof. So I'm going to actually talk about it because it's not only me that went through these things. I have a group chat with 10 other people, and there's 2 other people that I'm speaking to like on a daily basis for 10 years now, and we were there at the same time doing the same things with those same people. So there's witnesses to all of this. It's just like she's very good at manipulating your parents. Narvin had this obsession with me. It was like a father obsession. Like, I want to be your father, I am your father, but then it's also like, if I was your age, I would marry you. That's something he always tell me, especially when I would dress up to go to church on Sunday. He would be like, oh, if I was your age, I would marry you. That's something I would hear constantly. He also would just always say, I'm beautiful, and then he would always, I'm your father, like, I'm like your father, like, I care about you, I love you. And then when I had left, he still was calling me because I had like kind of like Stockholm syndrome for 3 years. So him and I would FaceTime a lot and video call a lot, and he would basically check up on me and tell me that, like, I will always be your father, like, don't ever forget me, like, I'm always here for you and stuff like that, until like my ex had really like convinced me to block him and be like, this is not normal, he's not normal. And he posted something on my Facebook. I don't know if you saw it, and it went on a WASPS survivors group, but I posted a picture of me in a bikini, and he said that swimming suit should be illegal on you. And then it went viral on like one of the survivor groups, and my parents saw that like comment on my picture, and they were like, this is not normal. And that's when they stopped talking to him, but they kept talking to Flory. He was also going through a divorce though after I had left. I mean, it was inevitable. They would always argue. And she had cried to me. Flory cried to me once saying, I'm only with him for money. I don't want to be with him. She ended up divorcing him, marrying the divorce lawyer who she's now with. Wow. I mean, she was, the way he built Dundee Ranch is by basically, he found Flory, he fell in love with her. He was married to another woman named Catherine he has like 5 kids. Excommunicated from the Mormon church, even though he still like believes he's Mormon. He just recently got baptized, and he actually invited me like a year ago to his baptism. And Flory, even being divorced, she invited me 2 years ago to her son's wedding, and I had left like 7 years ago. He was excommunicated because he saw Flory, he fell in love with Flory, he had an affair with Flory. Flory was I don't mean to be mean or anything, but she had told us that she was a prostitute in Costa Rica at the time. So when she ran into Narvin had money. They made that school together, and then she's a resident from there. I mean, not anymore. Now she has her papers, but she was over there. They had met, and then his ex-wife, the first wife, she found out, and then they basically threw. That's a big no-no. You don't do that when you're Mormon. That's also like why a lot of his kids don't get along with him, but it's also because of like all the abuse. They know what happened, because when I had left, they all messaged me saying they're sorry. Like Nathan has messaged me, and then I was very close to his daughters, so they had messaged me and they were like, none of that was okay. They also have including Flory's daughter, have all underwent abuse from Narvin, so they know what's going on. They just couldn't say it while we were there.
Right.
You know.
Of course. Did he physically abuse you?
There was one instance where he did. Flory did a lot of abuse. Like, we'll get into it. It's actually very grimy. But Narvin, when Flory underwent breast reduction, she underwent breast reduction when I had plastic surgery. She had made me get plastic surgery. We'll talk about that in a second. She had a cyst removed. So when she had that removed, in Costa Rica, she was in bed rest, and she was paralyzed for like a day. She couldn't move, so she was like somewhere like recovering, and then we were home with Narvin at like Dundee Ranch. And so me and a girl, I was about to say her name, me and a girl, this girl I still speak to till today. She and I went to the pool at nighttime, and we were just swimming, and then like we noticed Narvin was coming into the pool, and it was nighttime. I was like, why are you in the pool? We're in the pool. And Flory was not here or anywhere to be seen. So it was like our first instance with just Narvin without Flory around, or anybody else, like her son or her daughter around, to like, because they were like staff, but they really weren't. They were our age. And so he got behind us and he pulled us onto his lap, and he called us, like, he was like, once we sat on his lap, because he pulled us, he was like, good girls. And like me, all I like remember feeling is like his hairy ass legs. It was just disgusting. Like I can feel like the whole moment in my body, and it was just like, what are you doing? Like it felt disgusting. And then me and Jenna were like, absolutely not. So like we got up, and he was like, he called us brats, and he said that we were gonna get spanked. And like we felt really uncomfortable, because we was like, we haven't seen the side of Narvin, because he was always like, we're always being like around Flory, and Flory is very territorial. So Flory also didn't really like me that much because of Narvin always commenting on me. So it was like, this is really uncomfortable. So we went to the living room, and then we laid down to watch like TV in the living room, and he laid in between us and like started getting close to us. And so we both went to our room, and we just locked the door and stayed in there, because we weren't going to let anything happen. But then we went and spoke to Flory, and we were like, you can't say anything to Narvin, but this and this happened. She punished us, and she was like, well, you shouldn't be giving attention to a man who's married. We were like, we didn't though. And so she ended up punishing us, and we had to wear like basketball shorts and a white t-shirt. And we had to let our hair grow, so when we went in public, like on our legs, like we were humiliated. We had to eat rice and beans. Everyone would be eating a whole meal, and when we were when somebody's on punishment, she will go out of her way to make the best meal ever. And because she's really good at cooking, she'll make a huge meal. Everybody will eat in front of you, and you only get a cup of like rice and beans 3 times a day for like a month. So, and then like obviously you're taking vitamins, so she can make sure that you're like not starving or anything like that, or like you're getting the vitamins you need. In America though, that rice and beans is a cup of oatmeal, half a cup of oatmeal, half a cup of water in the microwave, no sugar, no nothing, 3 times a day for 1 to 3 months. No snacks, no nothing, just vitamins. And everyone gets to have snacks, everyone gets to have juice, everyone gets to have like nice meals, especially like the meals are nicer when you're on punishment.
Wow. So that's insane. Let's dive into Flory and how she abused you.
She's like, okay, so she's like really big on body image. That's why I have like body dysphoria. Like I never liked the way my body looked. Would have us on the lemonade diet, which is like 2 weeks. You would just have, I'm sure you've heard of the lemonade diet, right?
No, I haven't, but okay.
It's like, if you look it up, it's an extremist diet, but nobody should do it because like there's a risk of death with it. So you just drink lemonade with homemade lemonade with cayenne in it. 3 times a day, and then you have a cup of like hot salt water, like warm salt water, in the morning, and then you have that, and then that's it. You can't eat anything else for 2 weeks. You just have lemonade, and you're supposed to lose a lot of weight, which you do lose a lot of weight, but it's dangerous for your body.
Very unhealthy.
Yeah, very unhealthy. And she became vegan with us, so she turned us vegan because she wanted to be vegan. And we would go to Atlanta to like this get together with a bunch of vegans for 2 weeks, and we would stay in a hotel room, and we would go to this thing every day, and like, you know, green shakes every morning. She would have us do that. We would always be having green shakes in South Carolina every morning. She was super healthy, but she would monitor, like the girls can only have 1 cup of food. Boys can have more and seconds because they're boys. And basically, in order for us to have all the organic food that we want, we would have to tend to her garden for like 8 hours a day in the hot sun. And like we would have like long sleeves, like cover everything with a hat on and work all day. If we like misbehave, we have to do, basically, we also had like exercise punishments. So if she wants us to do 1,000 push-ups in the sun, we would have to do it. We can't speak, we can't complain. We had to de-weed her garden. We had to build boxes for her, do all of that, tend to her thing. That's basically like the one thing I hated. It was like each year that would pass by, like, oh, now we can actually garden. Now I don't want to garden, but like now we're gonna be able to garden. We would give her massages. There was one time like I had to bathe her, and I've dyed Narvin's hair. Like, there's times they want us to tend to them. I think that was really inappropriate. And I think, honestly, it was, like, more like child labor that she was doing with us.
I was about to say, like, that's definitely child labor and abuse.
Yeah, we would take care of basically everything for her. But she had this obsession with the way we looked. So getting back to that, like, for example, there was a girl there who had warts. And she was autistic, but we didn't know until she had left. Her parents didn't say anything. But, like, honestly, you could tell somebody's, like, a little slow. And she would always get punished because she was slow. And, like, with schoolwork, with rules, with anything. And basically, they would hose her down with, like, water and as a shower at nighttime outside in, like, the winter. But then there was a day she had me, like, hold that girl down because she had warts. And Flory took it upon herself. I honestly call her, like, the YouTube surgeon, because not only was it this, but she did other procedures. But she, like, would she iced the girl's warts, and then she grabbed a hot knife and carved them out of her, and I would have to hold the girl down.
Shut up.
It was horrible. And, like, I can't say no, because if I say no, I'm gonna get punished. And, like, if I get closer to Flory, I can maybe leave one day.
That poor girl.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can't
even because you were stuck in, like, this thing. Like,
no, we felt so bad for her.
Yeah.
Like, we still have letters from her. Like, she looked at the girls as, like, we were her older sister. She was, like, 11 or 12. Around there. Yeah, she was really young. They would do a lot to her. Like, there was, like, that punishment, like, all 3 punishments I've told you, she had that for 3 months straight. So it was, like, a lot for that girl. And then Flory was, like, she acted like she felt bad when she found out she had autism. I mean, you can tell somebody's, like, has something wrong with them. If they can't, like, learn it repeatedly, like, you're telling them something, then there's something wrong. And there was also, like, a kid with Asperger's, but he ended up hanging himself in the barn. And we were in the garden that day. It was, like, she had went to the barn because we were like, where is he? And honestly, I feel comfortable saying his name. Where's Eric? Eric had Asperger's, and Eric was, like, an angel. But he, like, you know, he had his moments. And there was a time he had, like, a fit, and he went to go strangle. Like, he can't control that, obviously. I understand and restrain him, okay, but Josue came in and started choking him until his face was purple. And 2 weeks later, he was crying one day, and a girl was, like, on her computer doing homework, and he was going to go out to feed the horses, but he was crying, and she didn't say anything, which is fine. It's not, like, her problem. We couldn't really talk, like, to anybody, and, like, she noticed he was crying, but, like, it's like we're always, like, crying if there's nobody around. He went, and then we went to the garden, like, 5 hours go by, like, where's Eric? And Flory has this feeling, and when she starts having a feeling, and she looks at the barn, we all look at each other, we all start crying. We're like, there's something really wrong right now. We can feel it. And they went to the barn, and they found him hanging. They came back to the house because they sent us girls into the house, and they told us, and, like, everybody started crying. We all slept in the living room together because, like, it was just traumatic. The more fucked up part is that when we went to his wake and his funeral, Narvin went on stage and told him that it was that girl's fault that he killed himself because she didn't say that he was crying to anybody. So that if she didn't say anything, he would still be alive.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
So he blamed
the girl? He blamed the girl for the death.
Wow. And how is that girl doing?
She has a kid now. She's married. We still talk. I mean, Narvin went to go look for her a month ago, and he also came to New Jersey a month ago to, like, look for us. She doesn't live in New Jersey. I don't live in New Jersey, but I won't say where I live because the reason I moved out of the state is because I know he's looking for me because he knows there's people against him now, and he needs somebody to fend for him. She was just shopping, and he was in her hometown, and he went into the store, and she just dropped her things and started screaming and left. And, like, she's like, you know, her and I were both shaking, especially knowing that the documentary's out there now. That's just something, you can't blame somebody for somebody's death.
Never. That poor girl is traumatized for the rest of her life.
Yeah, and then Flory, like, told us, she tried to make it seem good. She was like, maybe it was just his time to go. Like, now he doesn't have Asperger's in heaven. Like, he's, like, his perfect self.
These people are sick.
Yeah.
These poor kids went through so much with them. The mental, the physical abuse, the anxiety, the depression. You already had all that. Mm-hmm. And now imagine how you felt.
It took me years after I left to, like, realize what was happening wasn't normal. Like, go through therapy. because I thought it was normal for so long. And when I told you about the whole surgeon thing, she would so all her money was going to her and like their lifestyle and their vacations, but also like she does a lot of Botox and plastic surgery on herself. It was going to a lot of that, but it was like she didn't want to spend money on the cats. We were breeding cats. We had a lot of, well, we weren't breeding them. Like, they would just have sex. We had a lot, our cats would have a lot of litters. There was, like, up to, like, about 25 cats and babies at, like, once. And then it just kept growing and growing. But she was like, these cats have to stop having babies. So the boys, there was, like, 2 boys that were, like, actually having sex. She had us, like, and we didn't want to do this, but like we had to, but she got rain boots and she told us to put the cat's head first in the rain boot. I was like, okay, maybe we should put like holes in it or something so they can breathe. But she was like, no, it's going to be really quick. I know what I'm doing. Like I watched a video on YouTube. So she like, we had to hold the cats. The cats were literally struggling and she like castrated them. She stitched them up. 2 of them made it, but one of the cats didn't make it, and it was Josue's favorite cat, her son's favorite cat. So when we had pulled the cat out, he started freaking out. He's a mama's boy. He's not gonna like blame his mom or anything, but like he was really upset about that. We were all really upset about that, but it's like, what do you expect? Like you're making the cat suffer in a rain boot, and then like it can't breathe.
I'm sorry, I'm like trying to process all this right now. She made innocent cats suffer.
Yeah, because she didn't want to take them to the doctor to get them surgically like removed. She just wanted to do it herself.
So she just wanted to kill the cats.
She thought they would make it, but they obviously, I mean, it's just
Is she stupid?
I think so, yeah.
Like, how are they gonna make it if she's literally like, they're not breathing inside of a damn rain boot?
Yeah.
See, that's also another thing that's
well,
traumatizing.
we also like we would try to hold the cats, but she thought because it was a long rain boot that if we just put them in there, which makes no sense because like, first of all, you shouldn't even be doing it yourself. You're not a doctor, so it's like
right.
It's like the worst way to do it.
But she saw it on YouTube, so clearly, if you see something on YouTube, you're an expert. So what else? Because there was a lot of talk. I remember that you went to Costa Rica and you got liposuction.
Yeah.
As an outsider, we thought you wanted it.
No, I didn't want liposuction. So I got 2 surgeries. There was one I wanted, and I had spoken to my parents about it, but it was for a reason. So, like, when I was younger, I had, like, before these boarding schools, like, I had sexual abuse in my life. So, and I was liking more towards girls, not boys, because I was insecure about myself, and I also like had damage down there, like physical damage from like the abuse. I was like, I want to just fix it, and I wanted to look the way I wanted to look. So we went to go get the reconstruction. Flory was like, because I had told her, I was like, I just don't like the way it looks. So she like told me, she was like, oh, I have a plastic surgeon, you know, like I got my boobs done, like reduced because she has huge boobs, and she was like, they could just fix it. They could just cut off like whatever you want to cut off. So I went to go do that, but then when I was on the bed like talking to the doctor, she was like, oh, like you should just like get rid of your tummy. And like I was 5'7" and 140 pounds, which is like basically skinny. And because right now I'm 5'7" and I'm 160 pounds, so like I don't really need lipo right now. But when I was there, like she said, like you're not fat or anything, but like your tummy, like you have a pouch at the bottom, so it's like it's not like a full pouch. It's like a weird pouch. So
don't
she
we
was
all
like,
have that pouch as women?
Yeah. So she was like, just get rid of that and do your hips. And so I did it, but like, so that way now, like if I was to gain weight, it's not like sitting at the bottom, it's more like whatever. But my parents didn't know about it. She was like, we're going to tell your parents about it. Like, we'll tell them price. But the price she told my parents are both surgeries, but she said it was for one surgery. So because she knows that plastic surgeon, she gets a discount because she brings him kids. So
she brings him kids.
Yeah. There was another girl that was with me. We both underwent surgery the same day. She was like overweight, but so they basically had her get liposuction everywhere and get like implants in her breasts. And her and I, we were both like 15 at the time when we got our surgeries. And Flory had gotten a breast reduction the next day. So Flory didn't take care of us. We were in a house in Costa Rica, no AC. It is really hot. There's only fans. Like, it's like cold showers only. Like, it's like, you know, it's Costa Rica. So we were taking care of Flory, showering her. She was bloody. We were all wearing fajas. We were showering her and then taking care of her. She's in bed rest. And we're over here taking care of each other. You know how, like, when you get lipo, you're supposed to have the massages?
Yeah.
So I have, like, we were massaging ourselves, but we're not that good at it. So I have, like, a bump where, like, near my scars because my fat didn't get fully massaged the right way because I had to do it myself. So it's not, like, the best results, obviously. And she was really big on the way we looked. And I don't know why, but she was just obsessed with that. She was also obsessed with the way she looked. So
she just wasn't fully up there. She had like a lot of mental.
I think she has,
because just for someone just to physically, mentally abuse kids, cats, and just to focus on body image, which you guys know I hate. My listeners know that. It's sad that these things exist, and you know, you kids have to go through this without anyone knowing. Like, I had no idea. Like, the things that we were being told, like, oh, she's just studying abroad in Costa Rica. Oh, she's just at this program, but she's fine. They're taking care of her, which is the complete opposite that what happened to you.
Yeah, like, my parents came to visit me once, well, like 2 or 3 times, but at that point, I was already so close to Narvin, Florida, that I was, like, there was times I would slip up and I'd be like, Mom and Dad, like, I'd call them my mom and dad. And I started loving them, and I thought that everything they were doing was for my own good. And, like, but, like, when I first got there was a therapist. We started telling him about the abuse, and then they fired him because he called the cops, and then they spoke to the cops. The cops just went away, and, like, and then there was just no therapist for, like, 2 years. But I started, like, loving them and thinking everything was normal, because it was becoming the norm for me. So that when my parents came, I also, like, I thought everything was normal, but then it's like I was also scared to say anything. So because, like, my parents were so in love with Flory and Narvin that, like, they're going to go back and tell them, and then Flory's going to come and punish me. So it's like I can't say anything.
You were so brainwashed, and your parents were so brainwashed that everyone was just living in fear, to be honest. And
a girl and I, we were planning on escaping, and in Costa Rica and in South Carolina. We thought it would be better in Costa Rica because somebody in America would basically tell on us and just bring us back or call the cops. So we were, like, planning on finding random people on the street in Costa Rica. We just thought we would find a way to America. We didn't do it because Flory had found out about our plans through, like, letters. And then another thing is that Josue, so Flory's son Josue and I had, like, a sexual relationship in Costa Rica. We were always flirting here and there, but then, like, we had, like, more of a sexual relationship in Costa Rica. And there was one night that I snuck into his room, and I was really scared because I was like, if I get caught, they're gonna kill me. We kind of had something, like, for a second, like a split second, because he was Mormon. So right when it, like, started to happen, he, like, backed out. He was like, whoa, what am I doing? Like, I'm Mormon, I can't, like, he was like, did I just lose my virginity type of thing? We were so Mormon at the time that we went to the bishop of the church and we were like, you can't tell Flory, but we need your forgiveness. Like, we were literally so, like, stuck on what we did. Like, this was so wrong. Like, we need some way to fix this. Like, is there any way of going back? Like, we can't do this. Like, we need some type of forgiveness. The bishop was on our side, but then, like, he started feeling so bad. He was like, I have to tell my mom. But behind my back, he didn't tell me he was going to tell his mom. He went to go tell his mom, and Flory came to me. She punished me for, like, the longest time. She came to me, and she was like, this is all your fault. She was like, if you hadn't opened your legs, then nothing would have happened. And then, like, basically, it was just, like, after that, her and I didn't get along because she basically blamed me for everything. So there was that, and there was also the time right before I left, like, right before I went home for good. I did visit them a little bit after this. Again, I almost got caught back into the program. Like, I shouldn't have visited them. Like, I just went to go visit them, like, because I missed them.
Why would you do that, Nancy?
I missed them for a little bit. I was brainwashed. I was invited to a wedding. But so I had cut myself like I think it was a month before I was supposed to leave, and I cut prick into my arm, and then Flory came into the room and she put me on the ground. She put my head on the ground and she brought, like, I was laying down. She brought my arm behind me and she was like, I'm gonna break it. She was like, tell me you're never gonna do that again or else I'm gonna break it. She was like, tell me you're sorry. And she started pushing it forward because I wasn't replying, and I was like, okay, I won't do it again. And then she brought me up and she like punished me for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then I went home. And she would cry to me about what I did. I was like, why are you crying? Like, why do you even care? But that happened. I just don't think you're supposed to like do that to somebody after they do something like that. It's just not normal.
No, because you're supposed to show support and like make sure you're okay, because people that do that and people who are suicidal, it's all a mental health illness that you have, and you can't be abused after doing that because it makes you more trauma to yourself.
Yeah.
How did you get out of this program? You clearly survived 2 programs, which is amazing.
Yeah, it was 3 years total. So the way I left is when I cut myself, I told Flory, I was like, I need to go home. I was like, I just want to go home. And I was like thinking, I was like, I promise I will never do this again. Like, I just want to go. And I told my mom, I was like, can I just like, I think I'm ready. Like, I think I'm like ready to go home. So I was Mormon, and I was so like, at this point I was already baptized for a year, and I was so into like the religion. The only reason I became Mormon is because I was trying to put on a fake persona for 2.5 years so I can get out of the program. So if they really like you and they really trust you and you start snitching on everybody and you start doing everything they want and you become this amazing Mormon, then they're going to let you leave. So I did all of that, and then even when I got home, I continued to be Mormon. I was just stupid. But basically, I like went to the FYE program. It's like this thing they do once a year where all like the teenagers in the United States, they all go to like one state and they all like go to a college campus. It's like when none of the students are there. We all take the dorms, like it's like an actual thing, and we stay there for like 5 days to a week, and like there's like activities every day and stuff, and it's just a bunch of Mormons. So I went there, and Flory let me go by myself. I was like, why are you letting me go by myself? I'm usually always supervised. She's like, because when you come back, you're leaving anyways. So I was like, I started crying. I was like, I'm leaving. I was so happy that I was leaving. And yeah, and then after that, I went home. But like I acted like everything was like that was happening was normal, and I would start implementing everything she was doing to me at my house. So like I felt like I have to keep living the same lifestyle. I was like, I'm gonna build a garden, I'm gonna do this. Like I thought everything was normal, and then like I started actually having a life and making my own decisions. Like none of that is normal. So yeah, and then I was stuck talking to them for years, like over the phone all the time, and then I ended up visiting them, and I almost got pulled back into the program just off of one little mistake there. They called my parents. They're like, maybe she should stay with us. And I was like, absolutely not, that's not happening. Give me the phone, I'm talking to my parents right now. And then I was like, and then I went home because I went to Utah to his Narvin's daughter's wedding. So I went because they invited me, and I liked the daughters, but I didn't think that I was just gonna like, because there is a girl that when I was there, she had left 6 months after me coming back. She came back to visit for after 3 months, just for a day. She was stuck there for another 2 years, and she had already been there for like years.
Wow.
So, and that's the girl I keep in touch with.
Okay.
That was blamed for the suicide. So she was like, why did you do that? Like, you almost got trapped back into it like I did.
Yeah. And leaving that program, how was your mental health?
It was horrible. Like I was diagnosed with like borderline personality disorder, social anxiety, manic depressive disorder, panic attacks. I did get I have night terrors. So there's nights I'll like wake up screaming and crying. There's like almost every dream, even if it's in New York or like Georgia or wherever, like Narvin is always in it and Flory's always in it, and I can't escape. So I've been having those. I had them 5 years after, and then and then they stopped 2 years ago. Like I had them for 5 years, they stopped 2 years ago, and then now since the documentary came out, they're back. So now it's like, oh, because I thought I pushed them to the side, I didn't. And
so talking about it, you're reliving it again, and I'm sure when you saw the program, it was all the memories came back, all the trauma came back, and now.
Yeah, and I'm 24 now. I just started living my life like a year ago, like normally. It took me a lot because I had no childhood or like social life, so I didn't know what I was doing in life. So I was very immature at an older age. So like I'm just now starting to live my life, and there was like a time that I was scared of the world to the point where I locked myself in a basement for 3 months, and I became like I starved myself, and I couldn't like if I touched the doorknob to go outside, I would have a panic attack. And then like if I was driving and I was like at a red light, if I was at a red light, there's people around me, like other cars, I couldn't breathe. So I would like basically like choke myself. Like I literally couldn't breathe. That's how bad my anxiety was. And I was paranoid, and I just didn't want to feel air. So like if I was to go outside and I felt the air, just panic. I just wanted to be in that basement. So and it's just I had so many problems. I started like having like intrusive thoughts. Like my mental health was scaring me. Like my brain was scaring me. It got so bad to a point where I had to be on medications and I had to be hospitalized so many times. And there was times like I gave up on life a couple times. There was a time that I slipped my wrist. I think that was 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. And then I'm going to be honest, the beginning of this year, I overdosed on New Year's Eve. And I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. And they told me if I didn't go to the ER, because they had me on antidotes. So they called poison control. I was in the ER for 4 days so they could like make sure I was okay. After that time, I won't ever do that again, because now my stories, like now people can like actually believe that because like for so many years I went through that stuff, but nobody believed I went through that stuff. So it's like it hurts even more. It's even harder. So now it's like a relief, and I hope these people go away, because they're still doing what they're doing. They're still doing the same thing. That's like, and it's like on social media, like he still like has programs, like he still has websites up. So it's like I just want them to be put away. And now I feel like, okay, like maybe now I could actually put this past and like live my life. And that's the reason I live in a whole different state that I won't name, but I live in a whole different state, and like all my paperwork goes to another state. When it's my car, my license, everything goes to another state, because I know this man thinks I live in that state, and I know he's looking for me, but I live in a whole different state. Nobody will ever know where I live. So that's like why. And the state I live in, there's like millions of people, so it's like you can't really know where I am. Right. So like that's like just how I have to live my life until he's put away. But like it just makes me more comfortable that way.
It makes me so sad what you said. People are finally believing in me, because I was one of those people. I'm gonna be fully transparent. Like every time your parents talk about you or your name came up, it would always be something negative. And you were manipulating. You were a horrible teenager. You were whatever came out was always negative about you. And I just want to thank you for opening up about this story, because I think a lot of people are going to realize why you are the way you are. And I'm glad you're working on yourself, on your mental health, which is very important. You've been through a lot in life, and you're only 24 years old. So I am proud of you for coming out. You could have committed suicide. You could have overdosed, but it's not your time. You still have a purpose in this life, and never forget that. Okay? God don't want you yet. It's not your time. And just focus on yourself. Focus on who you are. You know your own self. The trauma, it's going to stay there. Obviously, it was a lot. But I think start living a little bit for you. And who cares what other people say? That's what I've always say. My 3 mantras for this podcast is you are worthy, you are enough, you're not alone. So always remember that. So to wrap up this episode, is there any like advice you want to tell the listeners?
If you ever have children and you don't know how to deal with them, I feel like the best way is to just like love them and try to relate to them, not send them away. Like, yeah, maybe like send them to a therapeutic like place where they can have therapy, but then come back home to their family, because then there's going to be this disconnection between you and them, like growing up, and even like up until today, that's like a thing for me. I feel like love is the best thing you can give your child, not like abandonment, because I have abandonment issues because of all of this. I also have a lot of trust issues and issues with relationships and just life in general. So I also think if you are somebody who went through a program and you're watching this, definitely don't be scared to put your story out there, because it does feel good after you put it out there. I know it's hard reliving all the trauma all over again and knowing that it's out there, but that means this won't happen to anybody else, and that you're not alone, that you, like, we know how you feel. Like, I know how you feel, and I know it's hard, but like, you don't have to put your story out there, but if you talk about it even with a loved one, like, now they'll be able to know, like, they'll recognize exactly what you went through, because I know it's hard to talk about. That's why I never really talk about it, but now that it's out there, there's a documentary, it's like we can actually like pinpoint everything we went through, because all the programs are essentially the same. So like now, like, there's a way to like actually show people what we went through. So there is hope, and these people will be put away one day.
Yes, they will. They will.
Yeah.
Believe in that. They're never going to come back to get you, ever. And those troubled kids, or quote-unquote troubled kids out there, like,
Yeah.
you guys are saving so many people's lives right now, coming out with this story.
Yeah, they call it breaking code silence. It's been a thing for a while.
There you go.
Paris Hilton was in one of these, so her thing is breaking code silence too. I think it's something like this that they do, but it's like a big thing for like 10 years now, and now it's like we're actually breaking code silence.
Which is amazing that you guys are able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to thank you so much for coming out and sharing your story. In this episode, we really did a deep dive into Nancy's story, how she was physically, mentally abused. She was put into this cult without even knowing, and with the story you saw, she was able to break free. So you could tell how like her strength and resilience to everything in life is amazing. And I just hope with this story you guys will see the importance and understand the importance of breaking free of toxic environments. So thanks again for joining us. Remember, you're not alone in your struggles. Until the next time.